Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will continue the light novel of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Volume 13, Chapter 1, Shake and Consciousness, Part 3. If you haven't watched previous video or chapter, you can find the link in the description below. This video contains spoiler ahead anime and manga series. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe my channel, and click on the bell, so you won't miss my latest video. Without further ado, let's get started. There was no image. I personally had the King of Wisdom, Master Raphael, to help manage and can pick the images that want to be shown. But Gazel doesn't seem to be used to it yet, so I guess the only way is to use the call function. It's a smart choice. That's great. I'm looking for you to make a final confirmation of the sharing of tasks in a joint fight. It's also important, but before that, let me tell you one thing. Our gate to the east of the city of Dworgen, Isthmus, has been blocked by the Imperial Army. It was just like Gadra said. This was the legion led by Yuki. I have captured the image. I'll pass it on to you. I aimed the Argos at the Empire's territory. In addition to the distance, there was also the magical obstruction caused by the barrier, and those images were not very distinct. Even so, it was possible to see a certain group blocking off the street that stretched out from east. Just like you said. When I heard that the enemy would rebel, I suspected that it was a trap, so it seemed more or less credible. No, not necessarily. Gadra may have been disillusioned with the Empire, but we still couldn't trust the guy 100%. And sometimes he can be taken advantage of without realizing it, so it's best not to take it lightly. Well, that's a good one. Just because you can see that, that's a big deal. Gazel said and smiled happily. It seems like he's testing me to see if I was taking things lightly, but really, he was still the same as usual, trying to play up his senior brother status. Oh, by the way, Rimuru. We have sent emissaries to the Empire, but they seem to be talking him out of it. We in Dworgen, by law, use preemptive attacks as a last resort. As detrimental as that was, as long as it was still a day of Dwarven pride, we would have to wait for the Empire to strike. And you don't have to go along with this. What are your plans? Gazel collected his smile and said this with a look of unsuspecting intent. What would he do if he could tell what was going on behind his back? I looked over to Benimaru. Immediately afterwards, Benimaru also smiled and looked back at me with those eyes. Communicating without words, we already understood what the other meant. I sighed and said, "Got it," then sat back down and faced the screen again. Looking at the empty image, I informed in a serious tone. The Imperial Army has invaded our territory without our consent. This must not sit idly by, and my country even intends to resort to military means and consider a strong response. That's why I wanted to check with our allies, your country, beforehand, to see if you'd like to follow suit. That's about all there is to say. Benimaru looked satisfied. Cheyenne nodded her head. Geld shivered with excitement, and Diablo was all gleeful, jotting down some notes in his hand. I wasn't sure what was being recorded, or what he was going to do with those, but it was certainly not a big deal. I decided to dispose of those later, while waiting for Gazel to respond. Well, you're starting to look like a king. That's good. You've been trying to meet them there since the beginning, haven't you? Of course. Considering the damage that would be done to the town, we could actually fight on the edge of our borders as well. In this way, however, the opponent may later claim that this is a legitimate defense against monster aggression. By being on our territory, it would prevent them from making such statements and would also create a sense of crisis in the West. Besides, the inhabitants have taken refuge without incident, and the enemy has penetrated so deeply into our country that we can be justified in going all out. Ha 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 ha. It's good to know how to use what you have, but you'll lose points for saying it. Gazel smiled and said those words. You're the one who started it, so why are you talking so hard? I didn't realize his words had a follow-up. Having said that, a king does not like to beat about the bush. The military, in particular, is prone to trouble if misunderstandings arise. So I'll be clear with you. The work of negotiating with the Empire was left to the Jura Tempest Federation. After that, if you decide to go to war with the armed powers of Dworgen, we'll take part in the war as the Tempest allies. To avoid chaos in the chain of command during combat, we at Deva Heights will only be in charge of defense from beginning to end, no problem. Wow, the answer was clearer than I thought. The Dwarven Kingdom must remain absolutely neutral, so I imagine that if others are not encroaching on their territory, they will most likely not be able to do so casually. Benimaru and I had long thought that things might turn out this way, so I wasn't surprised and accepted the offer. Thank you. Having you say that makes me feel more confident. Come now. You knew from the beginning that it was going to go in that direction. In short, it was the most feasible tactic, and with the allies in crisis, it was enough in that name. If you have any problems, you don't have to come to me. Oops, really good and reliable. We're backed up by 1,000 years of undefeated Deva Heights. If the defeat is not such that there is nowhere to run, then this alone will give us peace of mind to fight. In that case, we will send the messenger according to the plan. In order to defend the center and the east, our country must divide our army in 2 ways. It is also more appropriate for our position to be thoroughly defensive. By the way, you guys be more careful. Regarding the new type of weapon you call a magic tank, its combat power is unknown. Looking at the Imperial Army equipment, one would think that the era of using swords might be coming to an end. We are tantamount to putting a dangerous task on you, so forgive us. Gazel was probably worried about us and said this to me. Indeed, that is hardly reassuring. As Gazel said, the performance of the magic tank is unknown. So, while I don't think it's necessary, it's important to warn Gazel first. As far as I know, the world I used to live in also had weapons called tanks. It was to make the gunpowder explode, and by this force the shells were sent flying. The principle is simple, but the construction is complex. The power of the shell, the range, the accuracy of the hit, whatever it was, seemed to be impressive. As for the magic tank developed by the Empire, if its construction is similar to that of this type of military tank, it is likely to be impossible to deal with the current tactics. Gazel was right. The age of using the sword was probably coming to an end. That is likely to lead to an even more gruesome battlefield. What if the projectiles were fired not by gunpowder but by magic power? I once had Master Raphael, the King of Wisdom, run simulations against this part, and the results were terrible. Depending on the type of magic, it seems to be able to produce high-powered magic cannonballs, which are even better than the military tanks that had been the result of modern science. And it was still a mass weapon. So that defensive barrier against magic will be useless? That's what it's all about. It's not just the defensive barrier, it's probably also that magic barrier. Not only that, but we have envisioned those things to be incredibly powerful, so to merge the use of earth wall generation or tectonic strengthening, it is best to form a double or triple defense through trenches or earth walls. It's true. Is everyone thinking the same thing? In order to cope with the new era, we are also working on the development of magic armor. While getting jumped on by others, complaining isn't the way to go here. So what are our chances? It's a hard question to answer. So that's all I can say. Don't worry about winning, we have to win. That's all I can say. It wasn't just Gazel, this statement seemed to satisfy my partner as well. Hee hee ha ha. You're a reliable guy. I wish you a successful start. Okay, I'll take care of it. Finally, we finished this conversation and my call with Gazel ended. In terms of final confirmation, that was a pretty good result. Shouldn't that be enough to make sure? That's good enough. It means he has promised to let us go ahead and do it. After hearing Benimaru's response, I nodded. The time had come. Now, we don't have to wait for the Empire to come out. We're ready for it too, so let's make this war official. We were on the side of justice. Within my monster territory, deep within the great forest of Jura, the footsteps of the Imperial Army's invasion have set foot here. This was already a fact that could not be denied. Next, we would be careful not to let the other party that we have seen through everything, and pretend that we are in a panic to formulate a countermeasure while dealing with them. So now, it's about who to send over. Gobta and Gabble lacked a few things, and above all they were unfit to deal with people. Especially Gabble, thinking back to the moment I first met him, it felt unfit to send him as a messenger. And so, there was only one person left. I decided to send Testarossa. Well, if it was her, even if the Empire attacked indiscriminately, there was no need to worry that she would die. Even though it was all staged, it was time to negotiate a deal with the other party. It was also possible to preemptively say nothing, but a demon lord is also big on theatrics. Thinking about this, in order to give the key order, I launched the communication network. That's all for today. Hope you enjoy the video. For the next upload, we will continue with Chapter 1, Shake and Consciousness, Part 4. See you in my next video.